this is the book, and I will be speaking from this. And because we got a very short amount of time, uh, just today and tomorrow. Today less than 1 hour. I'm sorry for the delay, and tomorrow we got 1 hour. So I will try to kind of focus on a few chapters of this book, which kind of gives the gist of what this book is overall about and what Karma Yoga is about. So I'll try to keep this session a little more interactive. So I'm going to discuss a little bit about wants and needs today. So let me define what needs are. Needs are those things which we can't live without. So only when our needs are fulfilled, we feel normal in life. We feel mentally stable, physically stable. So to fulfill needs is a necessity of life. So that's how you define needs. But then there are other things which go beyond the needs of life that we call wants. Something that you can do without, something that you can live without pretty comfortably. Those we define as wants. So having given a rough definition of what needs are, of what wants are, let's start discussing what our needs are. So any one of you has, can, kind of say what your needs are in life. I hope there's a facility given for you to unmute. I'm not sure about that. If you have a facility, please unmute and you can contribute towards what your needs are in life. Now, the most basic needs are obviously, roti, kapada, makan, food to eat, clothes to wear, and a place to stay. These are the most basic needs. But beyond these also, we have got certain other needs in life. Can you say what those needs are? Yes, somebody is telling your relationships, health, and someone else is telling not allowing to unmute. So, okay, there is relationships, health is also need, emotional and psychological needs. That's right. Which kind of is covered in relationship only. To love and to be loved, yes, this is also a need. Anything else? Sexual needs, educational need, correct? Education is a need in today's world so that you can get a job and you can maintain a livelihood. Any other need that you can think of?
Participants can unmute themselves.
Philosophical needs, Prabhu.
How do you define a philosophical need?
Philosophical, the knowledge about where we are heading, what is happening, okay, what needs to be done next. So why are we suffering? All these kinds. If we don't get those answers,
yes,
we will be directionless, clueless.
correct. So obviously that will be our need if we are spiritually more evolved, right? It depends upon how evolved we are spiritually. People who are more evolved, they'll find these to be needs. But somebody who is not so spiritually evolved, they'll categorize this as wants, something that is not required for bare survival of life. There are so many people who are going about in life without doing any philosophical inquiry about life, is it not? So yes, it's a need depending upon our level of consciousness. So if it is your need, that's wonderful. Yeah, I'm getting some more inputs here in the form of chat. Creativity and hobby. Right, yes. Creativity is a need. Hobbies are needs. Can you go a little beyond that? Okay, fine. Okay, I think you got a pretty long list here. So can we move towards wants now? Now, can you, some of you people, be honest about what you want in life? Once your needs are taken care of, once you're emotionally stable, once you've got good relationships in life, once your needs of the health. Yeah, somebody's telling enjoyment. Can you be more specific? What kind of enjoyment you want?
Yeah, some entertainment okay, that can help us to relax our mind after work.
What is the entertainment here? YouTube.
Yeah, anything that can help us relax from the offbeat from our regular work.
Okay, fine. All right. That is one.
Luxurious home.
Uh,
Luxurious home. Okay.
yeah,
What else?
car, luxury car.
Luxury car. All right. Anything else? Chauffeur driven car. Then fame. Uh, Anything else? Wow, world tour, food and travel. Looks like, see, generally when I'm speaking to groups, they have got more needs than want, but this group seems to be the other way around. You are more magnanimous and more open with your wants than your needs. Yes, I totally agree. All these are our wants in life. So once you have all the needs are met, people want to go on vacations. People want a better car with a chauffeur. Then they want a bigger apartment. They want to move from 3 BHK to 4 BHK, and then, if possible, to a bungalow and all these things. So these are all wants. Now we will consider the borderline cases now. Borderline cases. Somebody told here that luxury car. So I would like to ask the same person. I don't know who exactly it was. I would like to ask the same person. Do you count car as a need or a want? Now you're saying a luxury car is a want. So a mere car is a need or is it a want?
I think it's a want.
Yeah.
Want.
In your particular case, is it a need or is it a want?
For me, it's a need.
Yes, that's the point I'm trying to drive here. That for you, it has become a need. There's a whole point here. So each of us, each one of us is in our own unique world with our own unique sets of wants and needs. For you, the car is a need now. For someone else, for me, for that matter, the car is a want. I can live happily without a car, correct? But you will find yourself out of sorts without a car. Now, how is it that the same thing, these are like kind of borderline cases. And the most clear borderline case of want and need is the internet, which is universally applicable. And all of you here, do you call the internet a want or a need?
Need.
Yes.
Want.
See, that's exactly what is called as a borderline. Some say it is a want, some say it is a need. But the reality is, maybe 15 years ago, the internet was a want. It could be considered a luxury. But that internet now has become a need. It's a fact of life. I would say across all rungs of society, especially in India, because internet has become so cheap thanks to the Ambani group. It has become a need, right? And let's take the example of the internet now to go a little bit deeper into this concept of wants and needs. The internet at one point of time was a want. And then people started fulfilling this want. Initially, not everybody had access to internet. Or for that matter, smartphone. When the smartphones were first launched in 2007 by Steve Jobs, it was available only to a niche group of people because it was only for Apple users. And then Android, made it more accessible. A smartphone was made more accessible to people in general. Even people who belong to lower brackets of society got access to smartphones. So initially, for everybody, almost everybody, smartphone was a want. But now, for most people, smartphone is a need. Many times they can't live without the smartphone. They might be able to live without oxygen for a few minutes, but they can't live without a smartphone for even microseconds. They can't even take a few breaths without the smartphone. To that level, people are getting addicted to smartphone. It has become such a integral need, necessity of life, which was a want at one point of time. So the point here is the wants of yesterday become the needs of today. The simple example of the internet. And the wants of today, if we pursue them, they will become needs of tomorrow. This is the law of nature. Wants transform into needs. You want something, you acquire it. And once you acquired it, it becomes your need. So somebody is traveling by public transport. And as long as that person is traveling by public transport, is able to make ends meet. For such a person, to have a car is a want. But then that person accumulates some money and buys a car. And then he or she goes to by the car to the office, to different places. And lo and behold, after 1 or 2 years, the same person can't even imagine traveling by public transport any longer. Now, the car has gone from being a want to becoming a need. Now, the new want is a luxury car because the existing car has become a need. So, the wants of yesterday are the needs of today. And the wants of today are going to become the needs of tomorrow. And this is a very dangerous trend. And here where the Gita comes into the picture. Many times people wonder why the Gita is so strong on, so many rules, regulation, know this, know that, know this, know that. This is called aparigraha in the yoga system. Restraining ourselves from wants, sticking to the needs of life. And the Vedas, 2.71 of the Gita, second chapter, 71st verse, it clearly says, Apuryamana machala pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti advat. Tadvat kama na pravishanti sarve sashantyam apnoti nakama kami. A person can be peaceful only if such a person neglects the incessant flow of wants that kind of gushes into one's mind. Just like the sea, is undisturbed by the so many rivers that flow into it. The sea remains undisturbed. The sea doesn't cross its limits, no matter how many rivers enter into the sea. So similarly, if we train ourselves to be undisturbed by wants, then only we can be peaceful, or else we'll be endlessly caught in this cycle of creating more and more needs for ourselves. Now, what's the problem with having more needs in life? Now, as I was telling, if we run after wants, what will happen is these wants will turn into needs. And the more needs we have in life, the longer is our checklist. Say, for example, you're traveling somewhere. So when you're traveling, you would like to have maximum luggage or minimum luggage? Minimum luggage, obviously, right? So you would like to take the bare minimum that is required for your journey. That's what everybody strives for, to minimize the luggage as much as possible so that you don't have to carry so many things around. Now, if the number of needs that you have during your travel is more, then your luggage size will be more. And the more discomfort you will face during your journey. Similarly, life is compared to a journey. It's a long journey. For some, the journey is 8 years long. For some, it is 70 years long, 60, 50, depends from person to person. But it's a long journey. And as we're going through this journey of life, depending upon the number of needs that we have, that is the number of luggage that we have to carry figuratively through life. Now, if somebody says that if I have to go on a vacation, I require few basic needs. What are my basic needs? I need a private jet. And when I reach my destination, I need to stay in a 7-star hotel. And in the 7-star hotel, I need a good car, a chauffeur driven car. These are my needs when I go out for any vacation. When somebody tells you this thing, most of us will become impressed. Is it not? But actually, we should feel sorry for that person. We should cry for that person. Why we should cry for that person? Because he has got such a long list of needs to be fulfilled for a vacation that even if one of these needs are not fulfilled, his vacation will be spoiled. So the longer the needs, the more the conditions have to be met for you to be peaceful, for you to be happy, for you to have a good time. So somebody who has got so many needs, only a fool will get impressed when somebody has so many needs for going out for a vacation. Because a person might be having a private jet, but then you don't find a chauffeur for your car, that fellow will be ending up spoiling at least one day in the vacation. Is it not? So we should feel sorry for that person. So, a long story short, the point here is the more the needs that we have, the more the conditions have to be fulfilled for us to feel normal in life. Forget about peace, forget about happiness. Even to feel normal, more conditions have to be satisfied. And even if one condition is not satisfied, then that person can be plunged into misery, can be plunged into suffering. He'll be plunged into an uncomfortable situation in life. So the less needs that we have in life, the more the chances of finding peace, the more the chances of finding happiness. So how can we have less needs? We can have less needs if we stop the process of converting wants into needs. And how do we convert wants into needs? By running after these wants. So as soon as you come to a situation where your needs are fulfilled, be happy. Don't run after wants. Because if you run after wants, then those wants will convert into needs. And once they convert into needs, you have to fulfill those needs to remain comfortable. Now we might see somebody who is a CEO of a company, and we might think, oh wow, what a high position, sophistication. But actually, that person's situation is precarious. Tomorrow, if that person is given a pink slip, that fellow can't settle for any position lower than a CEO, because becoming a CEO is the need of that person. I know people who are CEO, but they have been fired from CEO positions, but they can't settle for lower position of a COO or whatever it is, CXO. No lesser position than a CEO, because CEO has become a need for them. Unless that is strict, they'll remain miserable. So if we think this pure logic that I am speaking here, and Gita is pure logic. When Gita says, be wary of wants. Don't be so foolish to run after your wants and don't convert into needs. Because if you convert them into needs, you're digging your own grave. So yes, the more the needs, the more conditions have to be satisfied for us to lead a normal life. Right? Somebody for whom the need has become a 3 BHK apartment, somehow that person is not able to fill the EMI and is pushed back to a 1 BHK apartment, that fellow will be miserable. And someone else who is only staying in a 1 BHK apartment till then is happy comparatively, because for that fellow, 3 BHK apartment is not a need. So it doesn't really depend where we are in society. It depends upon our internal state of consciousness, that determines our happiness. So this is the first downside of running after wants. Now the wants convert into needs and then they choke us up. They choke us up. The more the needs we have, the more we are choked up. The more conditions have to be satisfied for us to feel even normal. This is the first side, downside of having more needs created out of wants. Another downside is the more the needs that we create in our life, the more these newly found needs compete with our already existing needs for time and resources. Because all of us have got limited time and resources in our life. And if our need list grows, then we'll be able to allot less time for any one of those needs. And typically speaking, people tend to focus more time, energy, and resources on newly found needs. Like explaining or expanding on the example that I already gave of a person who has become a CEO now. He was a CEO. He wanted to become a CEO. He became a CEO now. Now, remaining a CEO has become that fellow's need. But then, just because, and now that he's a CEO, that fellow's, he will put maximum energy and resources to maintain his position of remaining a CEO. Now, that doesn't mean that that fellow's more basic needs are vanished. His more basic needs for relationships, more basic need for food, health, exercise, all these things remain. But the human tendency is to focus more energy and resources on newly found needs, and in the process, the more basic needs are compromised. There is every chance that the CEO will compromise on health requirements, may not find time for exercising, may not find time for spending time with family, may not find time for spirituality. These are more basic needs. And then what happens? Then people speak about work-life balance. I'm not able to balance. And then people have so much of mental problems, physical problems, because more basic needs are not met. If relationships are not in place, if you're not taking care of good health, health is going to break down, relationships are going to break down. And so we are holding on to our newly found needs. He might remain a CEO, but then lost family, lost health. What will he do with that CEO position? But that's how the world is going on in the modern day world. This is called Maya. That's why this world is called Maya. It's run by Maya energy of God. Maya. Maya means what? Illusion. So when you see people who are occupying these high positions, who have got name, fame, and all these things, we feel, oh wow, what a life they have. Actually, they are might be more miserable than you and me also. Because they're more desperate to hold on to those positions, hold on to that fame, hold on to that name, hold on to the money that they're making. And they are much more in a desperate situation because their need list is so long. They got less time, less resources. एक आदमी करेगा भी तो कितना करेगा? So they're so stressed, so drained in life. And actually, if you see their life under a microscope, you'll find that most of the times they could be more miserable than even a layman on the street. So we should be trained, we should train ourselves to see through this deception of life. This is a deception. We have got wrong conceptions of who is happy and who is not in this world. We feel that people who have got more are more happy. No, that need not be the case. Anyway, there is a story about a king. One day he comes out of his palace and he finds his sentry. Sentry means hawaldar. He's standing at the gate. And the king feels very magnanimous. He was at his holiday resort or something like that. Holiday palace. So he tells the this Havaldar, start running. So actually, the entire estate belonged to the king. Huge estate, thousands of acres. So the king said to the sentry, you start running. And by evening, you should come back to the same point here. And whatever amount of land that you have covered, all that land will belong to you. By evening, all that land, I'll write it in your name. The sentry thought it's a great opportunity. So, like any other logical person, the sentry thought he will take an about turn around noon, and then he has to cover equal distance and he'll be able to return back to the starting point and all that land will be his. So he starts running, wanting more and more and more and more and more and more. And the nature of want is, once the want converts into a need, new wants will arise. And the tendency is to run after those wants until those wants also become needs. And foolishly, we run after more wants, more needs, like that. So this sentry is running. Around noon, he knows he has to turn back. But then he thought, no, little more I'll run. And while returning back, I'll run faster. So I'll cover up more distance while returning back. Now, he lost his good sense because he was so overwhelmed by wants. Wanted more and more and more land. So he's running. But then, maybe it's 2 o'clock and then he starts running back. Now, the funny thing is, he has to reach back the starting point for all that land to be his. If he doesn't reach back the starting point, he's going to lose everything. And return run is going to be much more arduous. Why? Because he's already tired. He has been running since early morning till 2 o'clock. He's already tired. And in a tired state, to cover back the same distance is going to be almost impossible. So our situation is similar. We are running after wants. And we are blinded from the fact that our basic needs are very simple in life. Our basic needs are very simple. As you rightly pointed out in the beginning, our basic needs are what? Good relationships, good health, and emotional stability. And all these things are the basic needs of life. And unless these needs are satisfied, we can't be happy. We need to come back to the same needs to actually complete our, feel fulfilled in life. No matter how far we go, running after wants, chasing after wants, we will have to come back to these basic needs to feel a sense of fulfillment in life. And unfortunately, in the modern day world, like that greedy Havaldar, we are so busy running after wants, that we fail to realize that we have come so far from our needs. And that's the story of the modern day world. Individually and collectively also. Even collectively speaking, we say modern society overall, we can't. Oil has become a need. Energy has become a need, so to speak. Sophisticated gadgets have become a need. Electricity has become a need. Airplanes have become a need. So many things have become a need now. And they were all wants at one point of time. And in the mad rush of running after these wants and having converted them into needs, the more basic needs of society are compromised. We don't have clean water, clean air, healthy food. The basic need of healthy food, organic food, we don't have. Now, 100 years ago, everybody used to eat organic food only. But now what has happened? We have been running so far away from our needs, chasing after wants, that the most basic need of healthy food has become a luxury. Luxuries have become necessities, necessities have become luxuries in the modern day world. Collectively also, individually also. Healthy body has become a luxury. Sound sleep has become a luxury. Healthy relationships have become a luxury. Smartphone has become a need. Car has become a need. You know, transportation has become a need. Electricity has become a need. So this is a society that we are living in, unfortunately. So we need to see through this farce. And we need to, that is why, this is the first, principle of Karma Yoga. The first principle of Karma Yoga is to understand this principle, that logically understand this, that running after wants means what? Running after selfishness. That's not the way forward in life. And what we need to steer clear of, wants, and we learn to remain satisfied with needs. So this is the first part of Karma Yoga, which we have kind of covered today. And the second part of Karma Yoga we will cover tomorrow. Meanwhile, one more very interesting thing I just want.
Prabhuji, we can go on till 9:15. We had communicated. Yeah.
Okay. So one more interesting thing that I want to cover is, one thing is, actually when we pursue our wants and we actually acquire it, then those wants convert into needs, right? But there are subtle ways in which wants can convert into needs also, and we need to be very conscious of it. So there are a group of verses in the Bhagavad Gita. If I'm not wrong, it is 2.61 onwards. Krishna says, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodho Vijayate. So basically, Krishna is telling how that if you see from the perspective of wants and needs, the dynamics is explained here. Even before you acquire something, that thing can become your need. Like, for example, there are a lot of people, who don't have maybe a luxury apartment, but the luxury apartment has already become their need subconsciously, and they're working very hard to acquire that luxury apartment. So basically that luxury apartment has become their need even before they have attained it. And this happens many of the times. And what are the dynamics of this? Krishna explains here. On a subtle level, how does a want convert into a need? Krishna says, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha. Vishayan means something material. It could be anything that people chase after in this world, all those wants that you spoke about, name, fame, or it could be gadgets or luxury apartments, so on and so forth. We become attached to them, and subconsciously they become a need. How? When we do dhyan on them. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsan Sangasteshu Pajayate. Sangha means attached. We become attached. As I said, needs are something which we are attached to. We can't live without. Means there's an invisible glue that is, sticking those needs to ourselves. Now we are stuck to those needs through an invisible glue. That's called sangha, attachment. And that invisible glue can come into the picture even if we are not physically attained that particular object. Through mere contemplation, we should be very much conscious of this. Should be very conscious of this. That simply by contemplating on a thing, you can become attached to that particular thing. So basically, the mind has three functions: thinking, feeling, and willing. Right? According to modern science, thousands and thousands of thoughts run across our mind at every moment. Nonetheless, there are certain thoughts which we choose to contemplate upon. Means we choose to give them more time, those thoughts. And depending upon which thoughts we contemplate upon, those thoughts will give rise to feelings. Suppose somebody is, starts contemplating upon a new. I'll use a very safe example. Somebody is contemplating upon buying a new car, and the more the contemplation, the more you develop feeling for that new car, and then as the feeling becomes more intense, that feeling will convert into willing. Willing means you are willing to do anything and everything to obtain that car. Sometimes, if the feelings are very strong for that car, you might even resort to unethical ways of obtaining that car. Just giving a simple example. I hope it's clear enough. But basically, feelings are more stronger than thoughts. And once so many times people say that thinking is very difficult to control. But more difficult to control than thoughts is to control feelings. And once those feelings escalate into the willing stage, it's almost an irreversible process. So to speak, once you reach the stage of feeling and willing, wants have converted into needs, more or less. So even though thoughts are difficult to control, thoughts are the easiest things to control from a relative perspective, because thoughts are more easier to control than feelings and the will. It's easier to control than the strong will that you might have developed to attain something, and it's much more easier to control your feelings, is to control your thoughts. So that is why on the spiritual path, there is so much of emphasis on dhyan. Dhyan means what? So the mind needs to contemplate on something. So rather than contemplating upon wants, contemplate upon spirituality. So in ISKCON, in the Hare Krishna movement, we have this system of doing dhyan on the mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So the same need of the mind. So we can't artificially stop the mind from thinking. And the mind has to think. The only thing is we need to channelize our mind towards the right thought, so that the contemplation part of the mind is on positivity, rather than on those things which will only choke us in due course of time. If you develop feeling for the wrong things, if you develop feeling for the wrong people, then what happens? Those feelings are going to choke you up in due course of time. So very beautifully Krishna explained in this verse. Dhyayato vishayan pumsa. If you do dhyan on something vishay, on certain things, then that dhyan will convert into dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu upajayati. Those that contemplation will give rise to feeling towards that things. Sanjat sanjayate kama. Sangat sanjayate kama means from the stage of feeling, you are reaching the stage of willing. Kama means the desire has become so strong that you are willing to work on it, do the needful to attain that particular object or attain that particular relationship or whatever it could be. So this is very important. It's not that just by obtaining a thing that we get stuck. Just through contemplation also we can get stuck, and wants can convert into needs. So we need to be very conscious of this. Okay, at this point I would like to, any questions anybody has? Yes, Bala, Ganesh.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare
Yes.
Krishna Prabhu. Dandavata Pranam. Prabhu, for some, if we are conditioned by some desires, okay, the gap between thinking, feeling, and willing will become very less, and we are prone to do that, even though we are not willing to do that. So, what? How should we, okay, control those things which we don't, okay, wanted to contemplate, but unfortunately we contemplate, and very fastly we will move to that action, even though we are not willing to do that. So, how to have some gaps in between and try to control and abstain from that kind of unethical desires.
See, if that is happening, that means we already reached the stage of willing actually. The very thought of that thing leads us to the stage of willing quickly. That means we are already on that stage, on the stage of willing. So basically, once we are at the stage of feeling and willing, it's very difficult to think our way out of it. See, many times people feel, and many times people call me, I am stuck in so much of negativity. The negativity means what? You're trying your best to avoid certain things and still you're being dragged into it. And that gives rise to a lot of negative feelings within you. And many times the tendency is to think our way out of those situations. We use our intelligence, uh, we use our logic and reasoning to get out of that situation. So, as you mentioned, some unethical things that we tend to get pushed towards, we try to get out of it using our logic and reasoning. We try to apply our willpower, so to speak, but it is going to fail because once it escalates from the stage of thinking, it's almost it's very difficult to control feelings and willing once the mind reaches that stage. So that is why in the Srimad Bhagavatam 5th canto, there is a process, easy process of controlling the mind. That is neglect the mind. Don't try to logically think your way out of that situation. Neglect the mind and instead focus the mind. See, the mind needs to focus on something. Instead, focus the mind on positive subject matters. Busy the mind with positive spiritual subject matters, ideally speaking, which will fill your mind with positivity, which will fill in the vacuum of the mind. So neglect that thing altogether and focus on the positive. So
Sure, Prabhu, yeah. And yeah, that was absolutely okay, fantastic. The concept of wants and needs, Prabhu. So, as per Bhagavad Gita, this is my last question, Prabhu. Sorry. What is the absolute needs that we should focus on? Sometimes, yeah, now they are being painted as wants. I mean, the wants has become needs, but what are those some 2, 3 high priority needs? Okay, that are absolutely necessary as per Bhagavad Gita, Prabhu, so that we can work on from tomorrow.
so the list that we have created for ourselves, we have to live with it. That's the reality of life. Suddenly, now today you have a need of a car. Tomorrow you can't say, Gita says stick to your basic needs, so you can't sell your car and go to public transport any longer. That will be unsustainable. So the whole point of the discussion, the main point of the discussion today is to understand this concept that wants convert into needs, and we need to be conscious and cautious of running after wants. So the needs that we have already created for ourselves, we have to live with it at least for a while. So if we are progressing on the spiritual journey, these needs will automatically decrease in due course of time, and organically we need to free ourselves from these artificially created needs. But if we suddenly let go of these needs, the wants which are converted into needs, I gave the example of car, or it could be some luxurious apartment or anything which has become a need now. If we try to let go of it artificially, then it is going to backfire. Because needs by definition are those things which will make you very uncomfortable. So fine, live with the needs that you have created for yourself. We can't, rewind our journey of life. So we live with the needs, but start spiritual practices so that organically in due course of time, these artificial unnecessary needs will reduce in life automatically. See, through the spiritual path, we develop inner fulfillment. And to the extent we are internally satisfied, to that extent we become less and less dependent upon artificial external needs. But this has to happen organically, slowly. So tomorrow morning, you don't have to do anything. The only thing that you need to carry, the message that you need to carry, is that stop running after fresh wants. Now, I expected this question to come from somewhere. That if we are not running after wants, then where is the impetus to work in life? People people ask this question many times to me when I speak about wants and needs. Then where is the impetus to work? Because most of the time, when people's needs are fulfilled, and there is a big want list also, and driven by that want list, they work hard in life. So if want list vanishes and all needs are satisfied, then tomorrow onwards there is no drive for doing anything in life at all. Is it not? Is it that I am recommending that now that your needs are fulfilled in life, sit back and become lazy in life? No. So the Gita's message, the message of Karma Yoga is rather than being driven by wants, become driven by a purpose in life. And purpose is a more driving factor than any wants. Wants obviously drive us in life. To fulfill our wants, we need to work a lot and we need to be driven in life. But if we got a good purpose in it, and Karma Yoga is all about making this transition from being want driven to being purpose driven. Most people in this world, generally they are called karmis. There are the karmis and then there are the karma yogis. What's the difference between karmis and karma yogis? Karmis are people who are want driven. And today that I have explained the science behind wants and needs, hopefully we will have the inspiration to move away from being a karmi. Because if we continue to be a karmi, we will be more and more entangled in the complexities of this world, in the network of more and more artificially created needs. But in order to make the transition from being a karmi to a karma yogi, we need to change the drive of our life from wants to a purpose. So, what are the positives of a purpose-driven life? That we will discuss tomorrow. And also we'll little bit touch upon what is the ultimate purpose that should drive our life. So, Karma Yoga doesn't mean, many a times people, they give weird definitions of Karma Yoga in this world. काम करो फल अपने आप आएगा. Some other says, काम करो फल की चिंता मत करो. These are very vague and incomplete definitions of Karma Yoga. A Karma Yogi is a absolutely driven person. A Karma Yogi is not a lazy person. But the thing that drives a Karma Yogi is not selfish wants, but a selfless purpose. So what are the positives of a selfless purpose in life? And what is the purpose that should drive our life according to the Bhagavad Gita? We'll touch upon it. So, we'll touch upon it tomorrow. So any other questions anybody has here?
Sir, in chat window, there's a question.
I have a question, Prabhu.
Ah,
I had two queries actually. How does one manage if one of one's basic needs is not being met? For example, you mentioned that having a good, healthy relationship is a basic need. How does one manage if a basic need is not being met? And two is, how does one manage if our near ones have certain wants? We may not, we may think that these are wants and I need not run after them, I need not pursue them. But our near ones have those wants. and it's sort of it is expected from us to meet those wants. So how just these two queries I had actually.
All right. So the first thing, you know, yes, at certain times we have created certain needs for ourselves, and to wish them away is very difficult. And sometimes a lot of our energy might have to be spent to fulfill those needs, even though intellectually we understand that these are artificially created needs. These are not absolute needs, but somehow we are stuck in them. And now that we are stuck in them, we need to fulfill it to one degree or the other. So, but okay, fine. Our energy might have to be expended on in that direction also to fulfill those needs also. We can't deny that. But simultaneously, if we start our spiritual journey, as I was telling, the beauty of the spiritual journey is we become nourished internally. And the more we become nourished internally, the needs that are artificially choking us will become more and more released from them, from their clutches. So we might have to work towards fulfilling those needs tomorrow, but that urge to fulfill those needs will go on reducing as we progress on the spiritual path. So right now we might have to do the needful, but as we progress on the spiritual journey through spiritual practices, we'll be discussing it in more detail tomorrow. It's only a matter of time before those needs won't remain needs any longer. Till the point they remain needs, we'll have to work to fulfill them. That's the law of this world, because otherwise we won't feel normal. Regarding your second question, yeah, we can try and explain to our near and dear ones how wants they convert into needs. It's a very logical explanation. I'm not, it's common sense that I spoke today. It's reasonable logic that I spoke today. So it can be explained to any person, and we can try to explain this to them. But nonetheless, people are adamant about wants. So, yeah. So if we become spiritual, our spirituality might rub off on them also. And maybe a day will come when they will also take a decision to not chase after wants. So until that time, because we have got into that relationship, we will have to do the needful and take care of those people's wants also. What can be done? So these are, but nonetheless, at the back of our mind, we should understand that these are all stopgap solutions. In the short run, we might have to do, work towards fulfilling artificial needs or work towards fulfilling wants of near and dear ones. But if we have the map of life clear in front of us, that I want to take the spiritual path so that I, first of all, become freed from artificial necessities. And the more we become free, the more we'll be able to convince others to become free and to take to the spiritual path also. So long-term plan should be very clear in mind. In the short run, we have to do the needful in life. We can't deny it, as simple as that. Right? Even I have got parents, and fortunately for me, my parents don't have so much wants. They are also on the spiritual path. But yes, we might be having certain relatives who are driven by wants, and you know, trying to explain them philosophy might fall on deaf ears. So we might have to do the needful of doing that. I hope that answer. I don't know who asked that question, whoever it was. So anything else? Is there any checkpoint to understand if we are moving to want instead of only a need? I didn't understand your question. If you can actually verbalize
Yes,
it.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So, I mean, sometimes, as you are saying, even through contemplation or because of someone's influence, sometimes, we are converting okay, into needs, okay, instead of needs. So, is there any way that we can immediately detect, okay, this is to understand, okay, this is a want, this is not a need. This is a need, it's not a want. So is there any, even if we can differentiate between the two, we stop running towards it. So is there any way to
See,
differentiate and protect ourselves from?
certain things are clear cut in life, right? It's very clear cut, like black and white. Many things are black and white in life. For example, if you are thinking about having a, if a desire comes to you that I want a private jet, I don't know. Assume that you belong to maybe even upper middle class background. So if you're belonging to upper middle class background, I could be wrong here. If you're belonging to upper middle class background, then you will, it'll be very easy for you to detect that wanting a private jet is a want. But then there could be some other thing which could be more borderline, whether to buy a car or not. So there could be a question mark there, whether it is a need or whether it is a want. So again, the same answer I would like to give. See, there are many shades of gray also here, right? So the more we advance on the spiritual path, the more we gain clarity of vision also. And more our vision, our internal visions becomes clear. The more the mind gains clarity, the more we'll be empowered to differentiate wants from needs. Right now, to begin with, we start with at least warding off those wants which are clearly wants. But as we make progress on the spiritual path, the more our vision will be sharpened and more we'll be able to detect, oh, this seems to be like a need, but actually it's a want. And Maya is trying to trick me to thinking that it is a need, but actually it is a want. That Vivek Buddhi, that sharpened intelligence will come through spiritual practices. Okay? Balaji. Okay, Rituraj Sabnis. Yes, what is your answer, sir? What is your question, sir?
Prabhuji, I'm Rituja actually.
Okay, Rituja, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay, Prabhuji. So my question, Prabhuji, is that can we have both like good spiritual life and also have a good like materialistic life, like having wants also in that area, like we want a luxurious life, but at the same time we are doing spiritual practices also. Is it possible like that?
Yes, somebody who is a perfectionist in Karma Yoga. See, you know what? The problem, which I said, is wants converting into needs. Needs means you can't live without it. Need means what you're addicted to it. But when we actually become, this is for most people of this world, right? Even when you're on the spiritual path, this holds true. Once a want converts into a need, it becomes an integral part of our life. But as we become more and more advanced on the path of Karma Yoga, as we reach the perfection of Karma Yoga, Krishna beautifully explains. Padma Patram Ivambasa. We become like a drop of water on a lotus leaf. So even though we might be, enjoying the luxuries of life, still we are not attached to it. This is a very high stage of spiritual practice. But for most people, once you get access to luxury, you become attached to it. The luxury becomes a necessity. But when you're actually spiritually advanced, you will be at a stage where you enjoy the luxuries of life also. You have access to luxuries of life also, but you're not attached to it. Because you're experiencing a higher spiritual happiness within. So apparently you're enjoying the external luxuries, but you're experiencing a higher pleasure from within. So you're naturally detached from the external luxuries of life. For example, Arjuna, the first recipient of the teachings of Karma Yoga, as it is given in the Bhagavad Gita. So at the end of the war, he gained a kingdom and he had access to all the luxuries of life. But then he wasn't attached to it at all. So apparently he had all the wants that people can ever aspire for. But even though he had access to all those wants didn't convert into his needs. Wants convert into needs when you become addicted to those wants. And see, we tend to get addicted to those things that give us pleasure, right? So we become addicted to wants. Why? Because they start giving us pleasures, and so they become our needs. But somebody who's experiencing pleasure from within doesn't get addicted to external pleasures at all, because the internal pleasure is far superior to external pleasure. So Arjuna was experiencing the best of food, the best of luxuries, but he was never addicted to those things. He was addicted to the pleasure within, not to the pleasure without. So the Pandavas, if you are aware, from the Srimad Bhagavatam, we come to know, at a moment's notice, they could give up their kingdom, renounce their kingdom, and they move towards the Himalayas, because those wants hadn't converted into needs. So yes, we can have all the wants of life at the same time, make spiritual advancement, but we should be careful here. We will be able to handle it more we are advanced on the spiritual path. Till that time, we need to be very careful, lest those wants convert into needs and we get stuck there. Obviously, in the perfectional stage, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, he traveled by flight wherever he went, and wherever he went, he was provided the best of facilities, but he was not attached to any of them. None of those things became his needs, because he was having access to the pleasure within. Okay, so I hope Rituja Mataji, I hope I have answered your question. So I think we
Yes.
have come to the closure of today's session. So see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Gopinath Chandra Prabhu.
Hare
And thank
Krishna.
you all for joining. Tomorrow we'll meet at 8 a.m., 8 p.m. sharp. Also, I've shared the link of the WhatsApp group. If you have not yet joined, please do join, because we'll be sharing the recording of today's session in that group. And we'll give a gentle reminder for tomorrow's session as well. Thank you all very much.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.